So well, I'll just let you know. Remember, we're not going to be reading the whole book tonight. I've got to get to this movie in 40 minutes. I want to catch anyone dressed up as a Hobbit or a Gandalf and get their autograph. But what we are going to do tonight is understand, what does it mean to be a Hobbit? And it's a question that I ask myself on a daily basis. And here's the man that started it all. His name was J.R.R. Tolkien. And he was from Kentucky. And he was a good man. An honest man. A man who wrote stories about little people in faraway places. And as I was preparing for this reading, I was also reading a book about community called Abundant Community. And I thought to myself, there's parallels between these two books, between The Hobbit and this book of Abundant Community. Abundant Community tells us that we don't need to be controlled by these corporations and institutions and only be satisfied by the things that we buy. And that our satisfaction should come from our neighbors and the people that we love, our families. And I thought, that's what hobbits are all about. Hobbits create a culture where they're dependent on each other. Hobbits don't even like machines. You see? Hobbits are what we, humans, could strive to be. And so it is. Page 1. And what is a hobbit?
Tell us.
Hobbits are little people. Little. Smaller than dwarves. They love peace and quiet and good-tilled earth. They dislike machines, but they are handy with tools. Parentheses. That's an important distinction. Close parentheses. They are nimble, but they don't like to hurry. They have sharp ears and eyes. They are inclined to be fat. Parentheses, and that's okay. Close parentheses. They wear bright colors, but seldom wear shoes. They like to laugh and to eat 6 meals a day, and to drink 17 drinks a day. They like parties, and they like to give and receive presents. Parentheses, sounds pretty nice, doesn't it? Close parentheses. They inhabit a land they call the Shire, a place between the River Brandy, Wine, and the Far Downs. The Hobbit is a story of these delightful creatures, a story complete in itself, yet full of portent. For this is a book that tells of Bilbo Baggins, the far-wandering hobbit who discovered, some say stole, the One Ring of Power, and brought it back to the Shire. And so this is the absolutely necessary beginning to the great story of the War of the Rings, which J.R.R. Tolkien completes in his epic fantasy trilogy, The Lord of the Rings. And that's our friend, J.R.R. We're going to smoke a pipe in his honor later tonight. So now let me read from you one of my favorite excerpts. It happens to be the first few pages of the book. The Hobbit, Chapter 1. An unexpected party. Take a sip of whiskey from my mother country. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole, filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole. And that means comfort. It had a perfectly round door, like a porthole, painted. Come join us, we're reading the Hobbit tonight. Painted green with his shiny brass knob in the exact middle. The door opened on to a tube-shaped hall, like a tunnel. A very comfortable tunnel without smoke, with paneled walls and floors, tiled and carpeted, provided with polished chairs, and lots of pegs for hats and coats, for the Hobbit was very, very fond of visitors. The tunnel wound on and on and on, going fairly but not quite straight into the side of the hill. The hill, as all the people for many miles round called it, and many little round doors opened out of it, first on one side and then on another. For no going upstairs for the Hobbit. Bedrooms, bathrooms, cellars, pantries, lots of these. Wardrobes, he had whole rooms devoted to clothes. I like this guy. Kitchens, dining rooms, all were on the same floor, and indeed on the same passage. The best rooms were all on the left-hand side, going in. I don't know what that means. For those were the only ones to have windows, deep-set, round windows looking over his garden and meadows beyond, sloping down to the river. I'm going to take a pause here from the book. I want you to imagine this scene, because it is quite beautiful, I think. Living in a hole in the ground, just made of comfort, lots of hooks for visitors to come over. The Hobbits are just very engaging, lovely people. I think all of us could say here, we'd love to have a Hobbit for a neighbor. And what I find interesting here is that the hill that they refer to is also the name of the neighborhood that Ryan and I live in. Edgewater Hill.
Really?
And one of the reasons that Ryan and I wanted to see this movie and do this talk here, our last one was in Glasgow, of course, here in Edgewater Hill is because we want our neighborhood to be like the Shire. Can we maybe turn some of our neighbors into hobbits? And I think it's possible through events like this one, where we all drink the same whiskey.
Whiskey? Cheers. What's that?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to you, my friends.
Alcohol.
And to you. And so on to you. And to you and to you. Oh, I already tested you. All right. I'm going to read a little bit more. I'm on page 1. There's a lot of pages to go. But what I want you to remember is that you can have this own adventure in your own home. He doesn't have to be with me. I'm just here to introduce you to the wonderful world of J.R.R. This Hobbit was a very well-to-do Hobbit, and his name was Baggins. The Bagginses had lived in the neighborhood of the hill for time out of mind, and people considered them very respectable. Not only because most of them were rich, but also because they never had any adventures or did anything unexpected. Interesting. You could tell what a Baggins would say on any question without the bother of asking. Predictable, you might say. This is a story of how a Baggins had an adventure and found himself doing and saying things altogether unexpected. He may have lost a neighbor's respect, but he gained. Well, you will see whether he gained anything in the end. I'm going to conclude my reading tonight by skipping ahead to Chapter 2, which has a wonderful title, if you are not a vegetarian. Chapter 2 is titled, guess what it's titled? Anyone want to guess? The Hobbits love to entertain and to eat, so what could it be titled?
The conclusion.
What's for dinner? Close. It's called Roast Mutton. Now, anyone here know what mutton is?
Ooh.
Yes?
Me.
Yes, me too. Me too. Yeah. It's a very English thing to eat.
Yes.
And it
You
is
really
an
are reading
old-
it, you retard, aren't you?
Oh my goodness!
Hey there. Oh, because he was fucking real.
Yes, good to see you, Ryan. All right, have a seat, get a drink. All right, my man. Okay.
So, what have they got?
Well, you got whatever you want.
All right.
Guinness. Yeah, you can order right here. Hey, barkeep.
Whoa!
Patrick.
Hey, Patrick. Hey, Patty.
Hey,
We got a customer, man.
two customer.
What do we got? I don't know, like Smithwick's or something like that?
Sure.
Yeah. Be brilliant.
Hey, Patrick.
Was Patrick serving somebody at the time?
No, he wasn't. He was
I'm
talking to
wondering
his
if you should
customer.
have it read with a British accent.
Hey!
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure
Tom
that
Bombadil.
J.R.R.
Arr.
Pretty sure he was from Kentucky, Brian. Just so that you know, actually.
You're J.R.R. Tolkien.
Oh!
There's 2 R's, dude. You only put 1 in.
Yeah. Well, that's
He's
because
also sitting at the table.
I'm
I said the 2 R's.
Brian and I have done these readings before, and we're sanctioned by the J.R.R. Tolkien Society.
If he gives you that leeway.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Good to see you, though, man.
And I'm like, is he going to be doing it? I thought you were outside. You said you were going to be outside by the...
We were. They wouldn't light the fire
We
for
were
us.
trying.
That's fair, that's good.
Yeah.
We were
You're
trying.
wasting energy,
We were
right?
supposed to be smoking pipes or
This
something like
actually
that.
has the heft of a
Yeah.
kind of a Shire chair.
Yeah, well, it's hefty. It's a Hobbit chair. It's just a little too tall for a Hobbit.
You've got the ornate feet. This actually is what makes all the makings of a
Yeah.
good venue.
It's comfortable in here.
Go on, then. So when you get to before I walk in the door?
Well,
We got this chapter 2.
We're skipping ahead to my favorite chapter, chapter 2, the title of which is Roast Mutton.
Okay.
And most of the Americans here have no idea what mutton is.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
It's going to fall on deaf
No,
ears.
that's not
Yeah.
true.
Nothing like eating an old lamb, also known as a... Oh, I call him a sheep.
Oh.
What do you call him?
Well, no, you have the saying, mutton dressed as lamb, which means you have this old woman come into a bar all tarted up, trying to look young, like a lamb, to get a bit of rumpy-pumpy.
Oh.
And unfortunately, it ain't going to happen, because she's mutton dressed as lamb.
Wait, I still don't get it. Is mutton lamb?
Mutton is
Mutton is
old
old.
lamb.
Mutton is old
Yeah.
lamb.
In
No,
America,
it's old sheep.
in America we
Old
only eat lamb.
Oh yeah, you're a lamb if you're young, but mutton is
Yeah.
old sheep.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a
yeah.
mutton dressed as lamb. So it's an old woman coming into the bar, trying to be like...
We've turned that coup.
Ryan, this is Brian. Ryan,
Ryan,
I
Brian.
think I've
Brian
been somewhere before.
just moved into our neighborhood.
Oh,
He's
welcome.
not really in our neighborhood. He's not in the hill.
Uh-huh.
He's in.
No, actually, you
Little
guys
Italy.
fuck off. I'm right here. You guys are over there.
Yeah.
This
He's
is
on.
my Shire, dude.
He's on 69.
I'm on
He's got
69th and Herman, right here.
He's got a bit of a potty mouth,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Edgewater Hill's where it's at, man.
Where? Edgewater Hill.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Alright.
Edgewater. We're gonna rename it the Shire
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
after this reading.
Shire Hill.
I'm thinking you should rename it the Shite.
Welcome to our reading, Brian. Welcome.
Sorry, John. Sorry.
I welcome you with open arms.
Let me settle down here.
And I see you're the only one, or you know, 3. Yeah, it's interesting. Now 3 of you that were out last night have made it back. So where are the other 3?
I actually texted
The other-
them to find out where they were at.
No,
And,
they're
They
toast.
said they were shit-faced and you pulled them off last night.
Yeah, they were drunk.
No.
Drunk.
We were all drunk. Sorry.
Yeah, I never get to see Eric. Arr.
They couldn't hang for a second time. Anyway,
So here we are at the end of the beginning of the end, the beginning of chapter 2 in J.R.R. The Hobbit. Chapter 2 begins. Roast mutton. Up jumped Bilbo, and putting on his dressing gown, went into the dining room. There he saw nobody, but all the signs of a large and hurried breakfast. There was a fearful mess in the room, and piles of unwashed crocks in the kitchen. Nearly every pot and pan he possessed seemed to have been used. The washing up was so dismally real that Bilbo was forced to believe the party of the night before had not been part of his bad dreams as he had rather hoped. Indeed, he was really relieved after all to think that they had all gone without him. This is the journey that's beginning. You see? And without bothering to wake him. But with never a thank you, he thought. And yet, in a way, he could not help feeling just a trifle disappointed. The feeling surprised him. I'll note to you that a trifle is the name of a dessert, I think, that has origins in England. Is that right? Yes. And I was served a trifle when I was my...
It's basically made with, what are they supposed to call the fingers? Lady fingers, and jelly, and like a thick kind of gloopy custard on it.
Yeah.
And then whipped cream.
Yeah. It's kind of what I ate in South Africa for dessert.
Right.
And all the
But a
cousins.
trifle
Here,
can also
when you say
mean...
something is trifling.
You don't think about dessert, do you?
Well, a trifle can also be, you know, it's a little something kind of like you're toying with an idea, you're trifling with it.
It's not a tasty dessert, though, is it? Because I ate a lot of that dessert.
Oh, trifles are super.
I liked it a lot. And that's some of the confusing parts. Don't fall asleep, Stu. With
Depends on the context of the sentence.
It's context is very important. Thank you, Brian. And thank you for being British, even if you're not. Are you? We don't know. Okay. Don't be a fool, Bilbo Baggins, he said to himself. Do you ever say those kinds of things to yourself in the mirror? I do. Thinking of dragons and all that outlandish nonsense at your age, so he put on an apron, he lit fires, he boiled water, and he washed up. Then he had a nice little breakfast in the kitchen before turning out to the dining room. By that time, the sun was shining and the front door was open, letting in a warm spring breeze. Bilbo began to whistle loudly and to forget about the night before. In fact, he was just sitting down to a nice little second breakfast, remember the hobbits love to eat, in the dining room by the open window when in walked Gandalf. "My dear fellow," said he, "whenever are you doing to come? What about an early start? And here you are having breakfast, or whatever you call it, at 10:30. They left you the message because they could not wait." "What message?" said poor Mr. Baggins, all in a fluster. "Great elephants," said Gandalf. "You are not at all yourself this morning. You have never dusted the mantelpiece." "What's that got to do with it? I have had enough to do with washing up for 14 people, 14 dwarves. If you had dusted the mantelpiece, you would have found this just under the clock," said Gandalf, handing Bilbo a note, written, of course, on his own notepaper. This is what he read. "Thorne and Company to Burglar Bilbo. Greeting! For your hospitality, our sincerest thanks. And for your offer of professional assistance, our grateful acceptance. Terms: cash on delivery, up to and not exceeding 1/14 of total profits, if any. All traveling expenses guaranteed in any event. Funeral expenses to be defrayed by us or our representatives, if occasion arises and the matter is not otherwise arranged for. Thinking it necessary to disturb your esteemed repose, we have proceeded in advance to make requisite preparations and shall await your respected person at the Green Dragon Inn, Bywater, at 11 a.m. sharp, trusting that you will be punctual. We have thy honor to remain yours deeply, Thorne Company." And so it is. The adventure is set. The end.
The end.
As she's not the end, folks, you can read the rest of this magnificent book at your leisure. You can pick it up at your favorite local bookstore. I recommend, what do we recommend for this neighborhood, right? Local bookstore, Visible Voice Books in Tremont, or go to your favorite library. I picked this one up off the streets, actually. Someone had discarded it, and I grabbed it. Like a lot of the furniture in my house came from the alley. What time is it? Thank you. Hobbit machines, Mr. Asquith.